Okay, we're live.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Mary.
Everyone watching, welcome to Too Much Mary. This is a place, a safe place where I want to get in touch with people who inspired me by living intentionally, by living the way they love and choose, and not settling for less, but following their heart, their intuition. And we're going to share how they're doing it and what they are doing. I am trying to bring into this space a lot of people from different backgrounds so that you might get a sense of different variety of people who do different things but all have like this inner fire of life in them. So today I'm having Tiffany Russell with me. She is an amazing person. It's just something that where I followed my gut feeling, which I always kind of try to trust, I'm trusting more. I saw her on social media and I immediately fell in love with her content. Like her Instagram is just like really amazing.
Thank
I
you.
loved how she expresses herself. I love how she is so raw and authentic and really shares from heart with experience and with everything that's going on in her life. So Tiffany is a personal coach and she is a Reiki practitioner, and I'm just gonna like go slowly into her explaining to you what she is doing because she knows the best what she's doing. And one of the things I also kind of noticed that I like is that she is taking a stand for people and helping them regain their power in themselves and becoming responsible and learning how to kind of rely on themselves. So Tiffany, one of the things I would love if you would just point out is the word power, that for you has an amazing meaning. And I would just love for you if you would just kind of straight dive in. What does power mean to you? Like, what are these words? And, the whole situation you explained to me before, which I thought is just like super cool. I wrote it down. So if you would just kind of dive into that, I would really love it.
Awesome. No problem, Mary. I first just want to, before I dive into power, just say thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure meeting you and just being here to share with whoever may need the message. So I totally appreciate you and thank you so much. So jumping into the content, when I talk about power, what power means is paradigm shift for your mind, optimism, always knowing that although I may not be okay today, I know that I will be. Then worthiness, understanding that I'm worthy of everything that I desire and I'm worthy to be healed and happy. And then energy, always having the power to know that I can control and change the way that I feel, and I have that level of power over my life. And then the last for the R is just radical responsibility. So I created the Power program pretty much for myself, on myself. In 2010, June 10th, actually, 2010, I gave birth early to my son, Nicholas. And when he passed away after 47 minutes of living, I was in a complete mess, as you can probably imagine. And in that experience, I slipped into what I like to call soul sleep, where didn't have any intention for the day. I was just kind of existing. So I'd wake up and go to work, and half the time didn't even remember driving into work. I didn't remember meeting certain people. I actually lost the entire year of 2014, where I didn't even remember the year. So once, and then of course diagnosed with PTSD in 2014 as well. And it was in that diagnosis that I started going back to a therapist, and she being able to say, hey, you're severely depressed and you're experiencing PTSD, which triggered, the PTSD triggered rage and anger and depression. So I would have one moment where I'm laughing and the next moment where I'm crying and the next moment when I'm just in rage. And so that started 2014, 2015 started birthing the Power program. I didn't become a life coach until years later. But that's where the program came and started. I had to get to a place where I had to learn to shift my mind from thoughts of why did this happen? And it happened because of me. And I'm not a good person. I'm not a good mom. That's why God had to take my child. Like, I came up with all crazy stories and I started to believe them. I also lost hope. I had no optimism for the future. I just thought, whatever, I don't even remember even having any thoughts of what I wanted, actually. So, and I didn't even believe I was even worthy of a good life. So those are the things I had to do to heal my mind, confidence or faith, meaning optimism, having worth, value in myself, understanding my energy, because I had a ton of what I call victim energy, where everything happened to me. They did it. They said it. It was them. I had no responsibility. And then the last and final thing was just taking radical responsibility. Like, I had to really own my shit, So that's where the Power Program came from. And in that pain that I gone through, I'm able to now help and work with others on it. So it's funny, once I started talking about my experience, because as you know, whenever you're intentionally sharing anything, your story, you realize there's so many other people like you. But when we tend to struggle, we think we struggle alone. And so I started sharing my story with other women. And I was shocked that I was sitting on each side of me at the time in corporate America, women who had also had miscarriages. They didn't carry their children as long as I had, but they had miscarriages. And they came back to work a few days later, experiencing the same pain I was going through. So that's where I started birthing this program to help others. And it's amazing how it's just now, how it's kind of like growing and spreading. It's amazing.
I love that. Like, there were just like soul sleeping. Like, I first heard this and I feel it. It's just so powerful. And where you said, like, just thinking me and them, I think that's like the smartest trick our ego tries to play on us.
Oh, yeah.
Like, separation, that's like one of the things that I've heard over and over, like reading and just going and kind of immersing in all of this inner work. I see this all the time, like me and them, or us and them, or they and them. We're trying just to kind of split ourselves into these groups, but when we know that like, we're just one group,
We're one group. Yeah.
Yeah.
The ego is one of the most powerful things that we have. Seriously. The ego can keep you so small, but because it's protecting you, right? So when we start our victimness, they did it. That's the ego just saying, yeah, they did it. So just be quiet and move over here. Don't say anything else, because they can't hurt you if you're out of here. You're over here and out of the way. Yeah. No, it's keeping you small. Yeah. It's edging the power of you out. It's edging God out of your life. So, oh yeah, I had all kinds of stories that I made up. And I was committed to the story.
Yes. And, one of the things I've learned also is like asking myself, like, this is one of the really great tricks that it's like this perfect timing that I'm going to share, is when I see, or you, or whoever, when we see us holding on to a story that we kind of sense it's not real, So I ask myself, like, what am I committed to behind the story? Like, am I committed to being a victim? Like, am I committed to being in the separation? And am I committed to being this? Like, what is that pattern? What is that story allowing you to be?
Yeah.
What is that story allowing you to be committed to what?
Yeah,
and then
powerful.
There's the answer, and yeah, like, even our ego trying to separate us, trying to make us smaller, it's all about like preventing us from being exposed, but also it's one of the, like, it's also at the same time is one of those things where you're just like, oh, but I would love to, but I would love to, but even you sharing this story, like, speaking about this so openly, it's not easy, and I bet it never gets easier. You just kind of deal with it differently every time, so even just sharing that story, you could be easily convinced in never sharing it, in never helping others with your story, because you could say, this is my pain, I'm gonna hold on to it. Like, why do they need to hear this? Like, why would they benefit from something I heard,
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to ask you, like, what part of, like, what awoke you from that soul sleeping into just sharing it?
Well, there is a series of events, right? Because once you start taking steps, spirit starts to meet you where you're stepping. So the first thing that kind of shook me up a little bit, well, not a little bit, actually, it was a lot. A friend of mine, and I won't make the stories too long because there are lots of pieces into the puzzle, but a friend of mine, her twins were graduating high school, and she was taking them to Spain. And she reached out, she sent me a message, and she said, hey, Tiff, when you went to Spain, where did you stay? And I was like, I have never been to Spain, what my response was to her. And she had this puzzled look. What do you mean? Really? Okay, well, I seen a photograph, and she named off my sister and my other good friend. She said, well, you guys were there, and I seen pictures. I just assumed you were there with them. I was like, nope, never been. And as far as I remembered, I had never been. So she goes, so the next day she sends me a screenshot. She went back through my Facebook.
Okay.
She sends me a screenshot of me and my sister and my best friend posing on the beach, hanging out in Barcelona. And of course I had the pissiest, nastiest attitude. And she goes, this is the photo or whatever, however she worded it, that I saw. And I came unglued. I would remember if I had ever, I had all kinds of attitude. I would remember if I had.
Like, I would remember if I was in Spain.
I would remember that Barcelona. Like, and so with an attitude, I then called up my girlfriend and I said, hey, with an attitude, when we went to whatever, I think it was like London, Paris tour we did or something. I said, where did we go? No, I didn't say it. I said, did we go to Barcelona? She goes, yeah, we were there for 4 days, remember? And she named off the places we stayed. And I thought, now I'm embarrassed because I realized, oh, shoot, okay. But that was, how can I not remember going to a country? So then that was that. Then a couple weeks later, I'm in the mall. And this lady runs up to me. She gives me this big hug. Oh my God, girl, I hadn't seen you since the Christmas party. Where have you been? And I'm looking at her thinking, who the hell is this lady? Didn't remember her either. She's looking at me, but now I'm embarrassed because I'm like, well, surely she showed me pictures that we were playing Twister at her Christmas party in her house. So
she had the proof.
She had the proof. I was clearly there. So then I'm starting to think, wait, there's something, this was before me being diagnosed with PTSD. There's something not right here. So I finally got up enough nerve to reach out to a trusted friend. And I tell everybody to do that. Find that one trusted friend that won't judge you, however, will hold you and say, okay, yeah, there's something's going on here. So I reached out to that one trusted friend and she said, yes, there's something not right here. If you don't remember days and times and people and those are just the two main things that happen that kind of get me to wake up. There's a lot of other things that happen, such as not remember having certain conversations, not remembering meetings. I got up one morning on a Sunday thinking it was a Monday morning to went into the office.
Oh my.
And I'm thinking, I'm losing days here.
Yeah.
So I then I check myself in and get some help. And that's when I was diagnosed with PTSD. And it was in that kind of woke me up like, okay, there's something wrong. The same friend, that trusted friend, took me to see Joyce Meyer, who is a pastor. And one of the things she said, and she's been saying it for years, but it stuck. My mind was able to receive it. She said, you can either be pitiful or powerful. Take your pick. And that's where the word power came from. And so that replayed in my head. You can be pitiful or powerful. And I just made a decision that I wanted to win. And I made a decision that I wanted to be powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what woke me up. It was those events. And then, you know, Joyce Meyer saying you can be pitiful or powerful. And then me making that decision kind of got me headed in that direction of healing.
Oh, I love that. Pitiful or powerful.
Yeah, Joyce Meyer. She says it all the time. And I'll tell you,
that's powerful.
I've been hearing it for years. It just never took until I needed to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah. There are certain things working in a way that, you know, you won't hear them.
Yeah.
You know? That's why, like, even me, why I appreciate, like, I am a library type of person. So, you know, whenever I get to buy a book, I know that I'm going to read it plenty of times, because every time I read it, it's different. You know, because I read something that I didn't receive for the first time, or I'm now in a different state of mind where I can receive it or understand it differently. And like, I have those books, like one of them is definitely by Wayne Dyer, like The Gem is Within You. I don't know if that's like literal translation. I'm just doing my best.
Yeah, no, you're doing good.
So, you know.
The book is powerful. I know what you're talking
about.
Yeah.
And he, like, this book is one of those books that I have probably read like a few times over, or just even open like few pages and just read a chapter, you know. But I understand every time it's differently. Like, every time I read it, it's like, did I forget this? Like, how can, like, what am I doing? Like, why am I reading these books if I'm forgetting them all the time, you know? And I was kind of, yeah. But I'm not forgetting them. It's just that every single time it reveals something different to me, you know. So it's not like me forgetting the whole content. You know, I was worried. Like, am I really like just forgetting all the books that I'm reading? Like, you know, that's not okay. Like, why am I reading them then? You know. But then I just kind of realized it's like, no, it's just like some of the things will reveal with time. With me changing, I will. Like Wayne Dyer says, like, when you change, you see different, like, you see things changing or something in that way. Like,
absolutely,
the things you look at, like, oh gosh, I'm gonna butcher this. So I don't know what, like, it's somehow like, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Oh gosh,
that's right.
That took me time.
You got it.
That's embarrassing. Well, okay. Yeah, I love that, how you explained even just recognizing that within you, you know.
Yeah,
that's not easy as well. I bet there are a lot of people who don't even figure that out. Like, it takes them maybe years, not just 1 year, you know.
I was in so much pain, I think, at that point in my life. I mean, I was already at the bottom because everything was a mess, from my relationships to I was broke, incredibly overweight. I wasn't sleeping well at night. So at that point, I think my spirit was just like, okay, I want to be free. I want to be free from this pain. Because I would have bouts of rage. So I just think at that point, I needed to know, what's happening with me? So I think we all have that, especially if you stop for a moment. So I think at that time, not so much I think, but I know at that time I had moments of silence that I could actually hear myself screaming within me.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's why now today I would take 5 or 6 different times throughout the day for 5 minutes to just sit. Because you speak, right? Your higher self will speak. So that's what I experienced. Even with all the darkness I was experiencing then, my higher self was screaming, which is what kind of a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also very powerful. I think that, you know, everything that we do, like, as a kind of in slowly subtle, like, self-destruction is based on not having the time to listen to ourselves.
Oh yeah.
You know, if, like, before I started meditating, like I would have these habits. I would kind of scratch my skin. I would be nervous, I would bite my gums. Like I'm still doing that because of the habit sometimes, but I'm slowly kind of, it's now just a habit, but I know what it is. I would just kind of get nervous. I couldn't stay calm. Like I couldn't sit still, and I think since I started meditating, like just allowing myself to be in that calmness, I think it's a skill to master, to sit in stillness.
Sit in stillness. Yeah.
I think we are so over, like energies from all over the place, doing this, doing that, this person, that person, like lights, this and that. Like it's so many distractions that it has become like a very valuable skill in calm, peace, and quiet. Like I see people that cannot stand quiet, like quiet time. Like they can't stand the boring times, I'm doing this now, like I'm still having my full-time job, and sometimes it's like 2 hours without anyone, like no people, and I was like, it was driving me crazy, but now I'm just kind of, oh, good, like meditation time, like, or I draw something, or I just kind of, just try to sit still for as much as I can, and observe myself, like, what is the thought when it comes, like, oh, I have to stand, like, what is it, I'm just experimenting with that, but I see how it drives people crazy to be in quiet and peace environment. And I think that's so important also in like learning about yourself, about living intentionally, in healing yourself. Like you said, hearing yourself just scream sometimes.
It just screams. And unfortunately, the screaming can manifest itself in, it manifests itself into something, a situation, something that happens. Like me, I was screaming long before I got pregnant with Nicholas, and then he passing. But that was the event. Losing him was the event that kind of that made me stop, because I was constantly hustling and grinding and 13, 14, 15-hour days. Like seriously, that didn't even make any sense. But I was just going and going, and then partying and then drinking, and then all this other kind of craziness that I was doing at that time. And then when getting pregnant with Nicholas, that got my attention. It stopped me, right? And then it just manifested itself into my life just differently than what I thought. So
yeah, I love that awareness. Like I have a sense that for your situation, that awareness kind of helped you move through it. It's that realizing what this situation is in your life, and just kind of seeing it from a different perspective, of not having it like, this is happening to me, just in the victim mode, like you said, but seeing it from a different perspective. Okay, like, what is this teaching me? Why did this happen in my life? I think that's so powerful. And I love seeing like you owning that part where you're just like, okay, like it's enough. I can just kind of move on with it and use it to make me stronger. I love seeing how, I bet, like, I know there's like this time of grieving. Even I had like some major failures, like from business that went completely south, like not just bleh, but it's still kind of, at that time it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense. Like at that time it's just like, what the fuck, like what is this?
It is. And even that emotion, right? That emotion is very, very necessary. But, it's just for me, because also I have the fighter energy, right? So there's a victim and then there's a fighter. They did it to me and I'm going to fight. So you're mad as hell. So it's like, but even with that, just being super pissed off and disappointed, those are all feelings and emotions that are necessary, right? but you can't stay there.
Yeah.
And that's
That's the
where
key.
that's where we fall, our
Mm.
soul falls asleep, when you hold on to that anger, you
Mm.
know, and hold and stay committed to the story.
Yeah.
Some of us stay
Yeah.
committed to the failures. And
Yeah.
really, you have to ask yourself. There's this one thing I ask my clients, and even myself, you know, when I talked about, I've been engaged like 3 times in months. And so, you know, I always had this thing I used to say, you know, something's wrong with me. That's why I'm, you
Mm.
know, something's wrong. And now I start asking myself, well, how true is that? Is something wrong, or is it just not your time?
Yeah.
And so I always tell people the same thing. Ask yourself, how true is that? Was it really failure, or was it something that you needed to learn?
Mm.
And then take your power back from there.
Yeah, because it's nothing than other than lessons. Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, it's
absolutely.
just like sometimes they suck, well, sometimes they're super, you know, sometimes they teach you certain things. And, you know, I don't know, I just saw a movie a few days ago, and it was like really powerful, where it just said, like, if you're if you're wanting to become more powerful, are you gonna have like a situation that's so like that's simply beautiful, or are you gonna learn how to be powerful from a situation that is just kind of like a disaster?
Yeah,
You know, just
yeah,
that's why, like, keep your mind on what you're trying to learn and how you're gonna get it. Like, you won't get awareness and empowerment from living like a vanilla life where you're just kind of smoothing and gliding through it. Like, it has to suck it sometimes so that
you
you learn
learn.
how to be powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what most people don't realize is we're all powerful. And the one thing that makes us so powerful is that nobody else is you. Like, there's nobody else on the planet that's Mary.
Mm.
There's no one else on the planet that's me. I'm me and you're you. That's power in itself. I think what we need to do just for self is to accept ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever that looks like, you know, however that looks like. And when we start to step into that place of self-acceptance, self-love, for me, what I believe, that's true power. That's our true power.
Yeah.
I think we are in a society where we look at everybody else, and then there's competition, and she's doing that, and then we're all looking the same, and it's like, no, 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 no. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't work for me. It's great for you, so let me admire it, but I'm gonna do something else that's gonna look completely fucked up to you, but
Mm-hmm.
it feels so good to me. That's true
Yeah.
power. It's staying in your own lane, and working all of you. And
Mm-hmm. So, like, what would be some of your advice? Like, I wonder what, when you got that awareness, when you saw the situation from a different side, when you just kind of knew, okay, it's time for me to move on and just kind of wake up,
Mhm.
what were the first kind of like practical steps that you took? Like, what were the first few things that you were like, okay, I have to do that in order to like kind of regain myself, in kind of like to soften myself up, to open myself up? Like,
Yeah.
what were the things that you kind of did that anyone who's listening this now can like say, okay, I'm at this point, like I just need few steps to take? Which would be like the steps first to take in order to start with the healing and regaining of their power?
Powerful, powerful question. So the first, and I made a lot of mistakes here. So the first thing I did is I thought, well, I'm going to lose weight, right? That's so
Mm.
not it. So the first step I would recommend is start internally. And what I mean by internally is just now stop moving, stop doing, and just surrender. Surrender to, if you believe in, God, the universe, or just your higher self. Just stop, because every answer that you need is within you. So that was the first thing I did. Is remember having a breakdown, and I slept on the floor for 2 days. And I just got on my knees, and I just said, I don't like the way I feel. I didn't like the way I felt, didn't like the way I looked. So that would be the first step. It's just however surrender look for you, just just surrender. And then just start asking, and what do I need? Like really ask yourself, what do I need? Right? What's off here? And I tell you, that answer will be answered. And just leave yourself open to however it comes. It came to me in the form of a friend just sending a random message saying, hey, when you stayed here at in this country, where'd you stay? Right? Just getting travel advice. And then being open to another friend taking me to go see Joyce Meyer. So that was the first step. Just surrender and start asking or praying or whatever resonates to you. What do I need? That's it. That's the first step.
That's beautiful. I love it. It's so cool that you pointed that out, because, you know, I saw myself just asking, like, can someone give me like the steps, you know? Can someone just write it down so I can follow it, and just I'll pay you, you know, just write what I have to do. And it's, you know, the trick is that it's within you. Like, we all have different steps. So, you know, that's like, before you do the work, there is work, you know. You have to, in order to follow those steps, you have to figure out the steps, you know. So firstly, figure out what suits and feels good for you, for your soul. What do you require, you know? It might look different for everyone. So that's why maybe looking at other people's experiences, like, it's great to hear certain things, but if it doesn't feel good for you, you don't have to do it.
You don't have to do it. Yeah.
Everyone has different process of overcoming certain things. Even just like grieving for a month, or just laying on the ground for 2 days.
Just like 2 days. Just you know what? I'm just gonna lay here. I'm committed to getting up.
Yes.
But today I'm gonna lay here.
Yeah, like for me it was like 2 straight months of just like having outbursts of crying. Like, I was like, just, you know, I would be eating lunch with my partner, I would be super happy, and then I would just like kind of cry and say everything sucks, you know. And just poor thing, like, he would be so confused. He doesn't have the same process, so he couldn't figure out what was happening on, like what was going on. He was just like, what do I do? You know,
do I hug you?
Yeah, like, should I or shouldn't, you know, because I could even cry or be angry when he hugs me, or like, it's crazy emotional ride that everyone has to overcome on their own. So it doesn't, it just requires to look within, and just to kind of start that first step with firstly relying on yourself. You know, rely on yourself that you have the answer. You know,
and whatever you need, and I think we're, you know, especially for me, I didn't believe that it was okay to say that I was okay. Like, I thought that I had to have it together, and it needs to look like I had it together, and so I became very, very good at pretending. And so, fuck that. That's just too. That's just too much work.
Yeah.
It's okay to cry. It's okay to say everything is falling apart. It's okay. It's okay. That's what I'm saying. First step: surrender. Have your moment. Cry. You know, just have that moment. Lay on the floor for 2 days, like I did.
Yeah, you have to do that. Whatever feels right. Like, be in your PJs all day. It feels great.
Have that.
Yeah. Have that. I love how we kind of went on the conversation of how to regain the power and how to set an intention as well. So my next kind of question would be like, okay, this is like perfect timing. Like I said to you before, we're jumping into a new year where we can just kind of reflect on the past year, say all is good, and just kind of move on. And there is something like, I'm not like, okay, like new year, new me, you know, and I'm sticking to it for 1 month, like, and that's not me, you know. And that's why I'm just kind of trying to kind of most as possible to avoid that cliche, but it doesn't work. So I'm just going to ask, it's new year, there's new energy, and it feels like a fresh start. There is some charm about jumping into like one, and just having the ability to set the intention. Like, for me, whatever the intention is, if it's like every day, it's great. If it's like once a year, it's super, every few months, however we like to do it. But I would ask you, what are your intentions for the 2019? Like, maybe not just for like a whole year, but okay, let's say just for the near future of this year. What are your intentions?
Great question. My intention going forward is to have an impact on 1,000 women, helping, serving in the capacity of teacher, speaker, coach, mentor, however I can serve. That's one intention. And then the second intention is just for me to continue to challenge myself. That was another thing. I didn't like the feeling of being stretched. And so I had to learn to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So my intention is to do all the shit that makes me uncomfortable.
Good. That sounds amazing.
Do everything that make me uncomfortable, as long as I ain't hurt nobody or hurt myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my two main intentions.
Okay. Amazing. So before I jump to my last question of this amazing, beautiful interview, I would just ask you to share where people can find you, where they can follow you, where they can just check you up and just get into contact with you if they may. So would you share that?
Absolutely. So I can be reached at several different places. Email is hello@IamTiffanyNicole. It's TIFFANY Nicole NICOLE. So hello@TiffanyNicole is the email address. My email or website, is www.IamTiffanyNicole.com, or Instagram, Coach Tiffany Nicole _, or Facebook, which is I Am Tiffany Nicole.
So wherever you type in I'm Tiffany Nicole, you will find this amazing, beautiful energy.
I'm gonna make it.
And I'm just gonna share all these things. Don't worry, you don't have to write it, you don't have to switch over. I'm just gonna share it under this video, so you can check it out whenever it feels good for you. And yeah, that feels super. And I would just jump to my last question that I love asking people because it's so out of the blue. What do you believe in your life at this moment is the absolute truth to you?
Oh, good. What do I believe at this moment that's the absolute truth? Oh, that I am one with source energy. I am one.
That.
Yeah.
I love that. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm just going to thank you one more time for taking your time, for being here with me today. I really appreciate your presence, your energy here today. It was absolutely wonderful. I loved having this energetic conversations, and I'm hoping that we will have this conversation very, very soon again.
Absolutely.
Let's stay in touch. And this is it, guys. If you like these kind of interviews, subscribe in order to really get every time a notification, something new pops up. And yeah, Tiffany, that's it. That's a wrap.
Thank you. Bye, guys. Thank you, Mary. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, love. Bye-bye.